Hi guys, welcome to another T4G's painting tips video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to go about painting a really bright gold colour, like what you might see on high elves, that sort of thing. A polished gold, really clean gold. The paints I'm going to be using, I'm using game colour metallics at the moment. There's no particular reason for that, they're not any better than any of the other ones, it's just what I happen to have in my collection. I've heard really good things about the new Games Workshop metallics, so they're absolutely fine. You can use those as an alternative. What I've got is Game Colour Bright Bronze, which is their generic kind of bronze colour. I've got Polished Gold, which is the brightest gold that they do. And Games Workshop will just have an equivalent for that as well. And Silver, which is the equivalent of the old Mithril Silver. But again, the brightest silver that Games Workshop make will work just fine for this method. The other things that you're going to need is Agrax Earthshade and Druchii Violet. Now, there's really no alternative for these. The Games Workshop shades are fantastic, and I seem to say it in every single video, but they really are. You could possibly use a homemade purple glaze from Purple Paint and either glaze medium or just water instead of the Druchii Violet, but to be honest, the Druchii Violet is going to be better, so I would recommend that. First thing I'm going to do is base coat the whole model in your bronze colour. So all the bronze does is gives us a really nice base to work from. It helps the gold to take to the model later on. It's similar. Some painters like to undercoat in brown first, because gold takes a lot better to brown than it does to say black or white, that sort of thing. But personally, I'd just rather get a bronze base coat down first instead. And I found this bronze covers really well. Let's dry this off and we'll come back. Okay, the next stage is to cover it in our gold colour. So there's no need to be too neat about this. Again, you just want to do a nice even coating. Now you can already see the gold doesn't cover anywhere near as well as that bronze does. So the best thing to do is to do a couple of coats of this. So I'm going to do this first coat, dry it off, and come back and do a second coat in a second. There we go. So by the time we got the second coat down, it's looking a lot better. Okay, that's all nice and dry. So the next stage is moving on to our washers. So as I said, I'm going to use Agrax Earthshade. Now, Agrax can have the effect of making your models look really dirty. And what I'm going to do is actually dilute the Agrax using Lahmian Medium. Now this is just glaze medium. Vallejo do a bigger pot, much cheaper, but I've never bothered to pick it up. So this Lahmian medium is just convenient for me to get hold of. So you can see I've pulled my palette into view. So I'm going to get a mix about 50-50. So a good bit of Lahmian medium there. You won't be able to see that on the camera, and some Agrax as well. So it's kind of diluted 50-50 with Lahmian medium to Agrax Earthshade. Just going to slap that onto my my shield, and straight away you can see it's nicely shaded the details. Not too harsh, not too dirty, but it's just put a little bit of shading into those recesses. So the first wash of the Agrax is dry. I'm going to do a second wash, same mix as before, 50-50. It's much better off building it up in these subtle layers than you are just slapping on the Agrax and making it look all dirty. Okay, so all the Agrax washes are done now, and you can see it's really nicely shaded all the recesses and picked out the detail. So what I'm now going to start on is using Lahmian Medium. So give my pot a shake. Sorry, not Lahmian Medium. Druchii Violet. Give my pot a shake, and I'm gonna use this straight out of the pot. I only need a tiny bit of paint on my brush. Tiny bit. And I'm going to use this as kind of a targeted shade to kind of just give us some contrast in around some of those teeth. Purple is a fantastic colour for glazing and shading gold with. In fact, quite often when I'm painting gold, I will actually mix a really weak glaze and glaze the whole area with gold. It really gives it a really nice vibrant colour. So you can sort of see the effect that this purple's having already. So then from that point, that's dried almost instantly. You can see none of that's wet already. From that point then you can go back to your original gold colour. Sorry, the second kind of gold colour, your actual bright gold colour. And any tide marks that you've picked up, you can pick out. You want to water this gold down ever so slightly, just to give yourself a thin consistency. You don't want to be slapping the paint on at this point, but you can use it to then brighten up any of the extra sharp areas, or any areas that purple particularly is settled, where you want it to be brighter. There we go. And then the final stage is to use that mithril silver, that really bright silver colour, and to pick out the highest areas, the sharpest regions of the model. You don't want hardly any paint on your brush at all for this. It's a really fine highlight. So I'm just going to, on this particular model, I'm just going to pick out the edges of all those teeth. And even if you really thin, really water your paint down, you can even do a kind of a tiny glaze on the central area there. I'm just actually going to put a tiny bit of watered down paint on there, wash my brush out, and then feather that highlight into the rest of the shield. And that should just give me a nice little highlighted region in the centre there. Done and dusted. So hopefully that gets the point across. You don't necessarily have to go that dark with the purple. If you watered the purple down, you could glaze that on. You wouldn't quite have the same amount of contrast in there. But hopefully that gives you an idea of some techniques for painting gold, and sort of gets the point across about how good purple can work. If I show you another model I've been working on in the past few weeks, this is an old Rapance model from the Bretonian range. And I've been using this sort of gold technique on her, so I've gone a little bit more towards the bronze, so maybe slightly less of the gold base coat and leaving more of the bronze to show through. But you can see where I've been using the purple on the sword and on these armour plating. I've been spending a lot more time feathering all these highlights in and blending it all in with the metallics. I've been trying to improve my metallic painting, but you can see the sort of effect it has on the whole model, and it looks really cool. Hopefully that was useful. I'm also going to be doing some more metal painting videos. I'm going to do a dark metal, a bright silver, and also a bronze, which is my favourite, to be honest. So hopefully that was useful. If you want to catch me on Twitter, it's at John_Kerr_T4G. You can email us, taylor4geeks@gmail.com, or you can check out the website www.taylor4geeks.co.uk. Thanks a lot.